Good morning, students. So before we start our discussion for today, I would like to request everybody to stand for the prayer. Please lead Miss De La Paz for the prayer. Good morning. How are you today? Feeling good? Well, that's good to hear from you. So, before we move on, let's have first sing the greeting song, Hello, Hello, How Do You Do? Are you familiar with the song? Okay, then that's good. So, let's sing all together. Hello, 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 how do you do? I'm glad to be with you, and you and you and you. Tra la 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 la, tra la 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 la. One more time. Hello, 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 how do you do? I'm glad to be with you, and you and you and you. Tra la 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 la, tra la 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 la. Okay, thank you, students. So, let's take our seat. Okay, this time, let's check first your attendance. So, who is absent for today? Nobody is absent. So let's have a round of applause to ourselves for today we don't have anybody absent. Okay, students, as you can see that there is a picture. So what is your idea on the picture? Yes? So, Kwano? It's a jewelry box. Yes, it could be a jewelry box. What else? Yes, Miss Jimenez. It's an old box, okay? It's an old box. It could be. So, today, I am going to read to you a story in which that story will answer all our questions. What is this box and what might inside in this box? So, I want you to listen very carefully for after reading the story, I am going to give you a short activity and I am going to give you an exam. Okay? So, the story is entitled Prometheus and Pandora. In those old times, there lived two brothers who were not like other men, nor yet like those mighty ones who lived upon the mountain top of Olympus. They were the sons of one of those titans who had fought against Zeus and been sent in chains to the strong prison of the underworld Tartarus. But as the titans were bound by chains, their children remained free to wander the earth. The name of the elder of his brother was Prometheus, or forethought. For he was always thinking of the future and making things ready for what happened tomorrow, or next week, or next year, or it may be in 100 years to come. The younger was called Epimetheus, or afterthought, for he was always so busy thinking of yesterday, or last year, or 100 years ago, that he had no care at all for what might come to pass after a while. Prometheus did not care to live in the clouds on the mountain top. He was too busy for that. While the gods were spending their time in idleness, drinking nectar and eating ambrosia, he was intent upon plans for making the world wiser and better than it had even been before. And so from the clay of the earth, Prometheus shaped smaller beings that looked like himself and created the first man. For more clay, he shaped beings that looked like his mother and his Titan's ants, and thus he also created women. His brother Prometheus was in charge of creating the animals and made them fast, gave them fur to keep them warm, and sharp teeth to defend themselves. But gods didn't need these things, and so Prometheus didn't give humans these qualities. Prometheus went out among men to live with them and help them. For his heart was filled with sadness when he found that they were no longer happy as they had been during the golden days when the Kronos was king. How very poor and pitiful they were. He found them living in caves and in holes of the earth, shivering in the cold because there was no fire, dying of starvation, hunted by wild beasts and by one another, the most miserable of all living creatures. If they only had fire, said Prometheus to himself, they could at least warm themselves and cook their food, and after a while they could learn to make tools and build themselves houses. Without fire, they are worse off than the beast. Then he bravely approached Zeus and begged him to give fire to men, so that they might have a little comfort through the long, dreary months of winter. Not a spark will I give, said Zeus. No, indeed. If men had fire, they might become strong and wise like us, and after a while they would drive us out of our kingdom. Let them shiver in the cold, and let them live like beasts. It is best for them to be poor and ignorant than so we gods may thrive and be happy. Prometheus made no answer, but he had set his heart on helping mankind, and he did not give up. He turned away and left Zeus and his mighty company forever. As he was walking by the shore of the sea, he found a fennel stalk, and when he had broken it off, he saw that its hollow center was filled with a dry, soft core which would burn slowly and keep on fire a long time. He took the long stalk in his hands and started walking. Mankind shall have fire in spite of the tyrant who sits on the mountain top, he said. He reached the place of the sun in the early morning just as the glowing golden spear was rising from the earth and beginning his daily journey through the sky. He touched the end of the long stalk to the flames, and the dry core caught on fire and burned slowly. Then he turned and hurried back to his own land, carrying with him the precious spark hidden in the hollow center of the plant. He called some of the shivering men from their caves and built a fire for them, and showed them how to warm themselves by it and how to build other fires from the coals. Soon there was a cheerful blaze in every home in the land, and men and women gathered around it and were warm and happy and thankful to Prometheus for the wonderful gift which he had brought to them from the sun. It was not long until they learned to cook their food, and so to eat like men instead of like beasts. They began at once to leave behind their wild and savage habits, and instead of hiding in the dark places of the world, they came out into the open air and bright sunlight, and were glad because life had been given to them. After that, Prometheus taught them little by little, 1,000 things. He showed them how to build houses of wood and stone, and how to tame sheep and cattle and make them useful, and how to plow and sow and reap, and how to protect themselves from the storms of winter and the beasts of the woods. Then he showed them how to dig in the earth for copper and iron, and how to melt the ore, and how to hammer it into shape and fashion from it the tools and weapons which they needed in peace and war. And when he saw how happy the world was becoming, he cried out, "A new golden age shall come, brighter and better by far than the old." Things might have gone a very happy indeed, and the golden age might really have come again had it not been for Zeus. But one day, when he happened to look down upon the earth, he saw the fires burning, and the people living in houses, and the farms with animals feeding on the hills, and the grain ripening in the fields, and this made him very angry. "Who has done all this?" he asked. And someone answered, "Prometheus." "Well, I will punish him in a way that will make him wish I had shut him up in the prison with his parents. But as for those worthless humans, let them keep their fire. I will make them 10 times more miserable than they were before they had it." Of course, it would be easy enough to deal with Prometheus at any time, and so Zeus was in no great hurry to do it. He made up his mind to make mankind suffer first, and he thought of a plan for doing it in a very strange and direct way. In the first place, he ordered his blacksmith Vulcan, whose forge was in the crater of a volcano, to take a lump of clay which he gave him and mold it into the form of a woman. Vulcan did as he was ordered, and when he had finished the statue, he carried it up to Zeus, who was sitting among the clouds with all the gods around him. It was nothing but an ordinary lifeless body, but the great blacksmith had given it a form more perfect than of any statue that has ever been made. "Come now," said Zeus, "let us all give some wonderful gift to this woman." And he began by giving her life. Then the others came in their turn, each with a gift of remarkable creature. One gave her beauty, one another a lovely voice, and another good manners, and another a kind heart, and another skill in many arts. And lastly, someone gave her curiosity. Then he called her Pandora, which means the all-gifted, because she had received gifts from them all. Pandora was so beautiful and so talented that no one could help loving her. When the gods had admired her for a time, they gave her to the messenger Hermes, and he had led her down the mountainside to the place where Prometheus and her brother were living and working hard for the good mankind. He met Epimetheus first and said to him, "Epimetheus, here is a beautiful woman whom Zeus has sent to you to be your wife." Prometheus had often warned his brother to beware of any gift that Zeus might send, for he knew that the mighty tyrant could not be trusted. But when Epimetheus saw Pandora, how lovely and wise she was, he forgot all warnings and took her home to live with him and be his wife. Pandora was very happy in her new home, and even Prometheus, when he saw her, was happy with her loveliness. She had brought with her a golden box, which Zeus had given her before she left Olympus, and which he had told her held many precious things, but wise Athena had warned her never to open it, nor look at the things inside. They must be jewels, she said to herself. And then she thought of how they would add to her beauty if only she could wear them. Why did Zeus give them to me if I should never use them, nor even look at them? She asked. The more she thought about the golden bags, the more curious she was to see what was in it. And every day she took it down from its shelf and felt of the lid and tried to examine inside of it without opening it. Why should I care about what Athena told me? She said at last. She is not beautiful, and jewels would be useless to her. I think I will look at them anyway. Athena will never know. Nobody will never know. She opened the letter little, just to peek inside. All at once, there was a buzzing, rustling sound, and before she could shut it down again, out flew 10,000 strange creatures with death-like faces and bony and horrible forms that nobody in all the world had ever seen. They fluttered for a little while about the room and then flew away to find dwelling places wherever there were homes. They were diseases and cares, until the time mankind had not any kind of sickness, nor felt any troubles of mind, nor worried about what tomorrow might bring. These creatures flew into every house, and without anyone seeing them, nestled down in the minds and souls of men and women and children, and put an end to all their joy. And ever since that day, we have been fluttering and creeping unseen and unheard over all the land, bringing pain and sadness and death into every household. All that was left inside the box, lying in the bottom, was hope. Hope was the only thing that remained. It's a shame that hope never left the box. And this was the way in which Zeus sought to make mankind more miserable than they had been before Prometheus had created them. But Zeus didn't forget about punishing Prometheus himself. He had Prometheus chained to a rock where a eagle was found and ate his liver, which was thought to be where emotions lie according to the ancient Greeks. Every day his liver would grow back, and every day the eagle would return to it once more. So that's the end of the story. So you have now idea what is the picture that I have shown to you. So the picture is the Pandora box, and inside the Pandora box there is the so-called disaster that Zeus had let the people to suffer. So this time I am going to give you an activity. Are you still there, class? Okay. So I have here jumbled words that you are going to arrange. So these words came from the story. So the first word, I'm just going to call your names. Yeah. So since we are in the Google class, we are having a Google Meet, so I want you to click or to raise your hand if you are going to answer. Yes. So, I have here the first jumbled words. Yes, Mika. What word is this? Yes, very good. Bound. So, bound. The meaning of bound Having an obligation to do something became because of law, promise, or any other. Then next is yes, Miko. Yes, very good. Wonder. So when we say wonder, the word is an act or instance of wondering. So the next word we have yes, Clarice. Very good. Starvation. Yes, that's the word starvation, which means the act of an instant of starving. Then we have the next word. Who would like to answer? Yes, Anna. Hollow, yes. Very good. The word is hollow, which means a depressed or low part of a surface. Then the next word we had yes, Jamaica. Mold, yes, mold, which means a cavity in which substance is shaped. So this time, I want you to prepare 1/2 sheet of paper. Then you are going to, or I want you to prepare your, yes, for you are going to answer these 10 questions that I made. And for 15 minutes, you are going to submit it in our Google Classroom. Yes, I made there a classwork for where you are going to submit. So, our first question here, who is Prometheus? As you can see in the slide, who is Prometheus? Then number 2, what did Prometheus give to humans, which Zeus disagreed? Then number 3, how did Zeus punish the mankind for Prometheus' betrayal? Then number 4, why was Zeus afraid of man obtaining the fire? Then 5, what would happen if Pandora was not tempted to open the box? Yes, you can start answering now. You can answer this for 15 minutes only. So for the next questions, do you think Prometheus could escape the punishment that Zeus gave him? Number 7, would you give and teach people how to survive if you were going to be one of the king, just like what Prometheus did? Would you resist to open the box just like what Pandora did? And after seeing what was inside the box, would you repent yourselves for being the reason why the people suffer such kind of disaster? Number 9, if you are going to make a punishment to Prometheus, what kind of punishment would you like to give to him? Zeus wanted Pandora to open the box and ensured She would do so by making her curious. How is this similar or different to the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden? So, I want you to take a screenshot of the questions that I give to you. Okay. Okay. So, 15 minutes is now over. So class, I want you to study our next lesson, which is about the parts of the elements of the story. I want you to have an advanced study. So that's all for today, class. Goodbye. See you next Monday.